Why? By Girl from the Mojave. The pint-sized nutcracker. He isn't talking, sir. I've tried everything. Yelling and shouting. Me and Spade, we even did the good cop, bad cop routine. Elder, still nothing. I don't know if we have anything left up our sleeves. Knight Taylor sighed, as she hung her head and pinched the bridge of her nose in frustration. The 23-year-old elder sighed and turned around as he looked into the interrogation room, where a cold-blooded raider boss named Mason sat, his arms folded and his face hard as steel chair he sat in. You tried, Knight, and that's all I can ask for. Straight-laced raiders are tough nuts to crack. They're not unstable or jumpy. Instead, they're sober and calculated. But don't worry. Knight, you and Spade go get some rest. You two ladies have earned it. Taylor sighed, and gave the elder a sad smile, then opened her mouth to say something but was cut off by a 3-year-old daughter shouting, Mommy! Mommy! Lizzie, what are you doing out here? You should be with Daddy and baby Livy. Taylor aghast as she picked up her daughter and snugged her close. Why? Taylor sighed and kissed her daughter's head before asking her a question. Because Mommy is working and it's not safe for you to be down here. Why? Taylor rolled her eyes. Because there's a lot of people wearing power armor and practicing with their laser pistols and weapons. Lizzie tilted her head and tugged her mother's Brotherhood of Steel necklace before looking up at her mother's face. Why? The little toddler said, smiling as she played with mother's curls. Maxson chuckled and gently tossed the little girl's ebony-colored curls, making the little tot giggle and playfully smack his hands. She's quite the curious one, isn't she? Taylor laughed and nodded as she put her daughter down on the floor and helped Lizzie to her feet. I'm pretty sure why is the only word she say for the next millennium. Drives me and Marcus crazy. I swear, she couldn't make anyone snap. Taylor chuckled as she walked her daughter down to the mirror and stared in awe. Why? Lizzie said, smacking the grass before turning directly to Maxson before running over to him and patting his legs rather aggressively. Why? Lizzie shrieked as she pointed directly at Maxson, who rolled his eyes and groaned in annoyance. Will you please shut that damn baby up? Mason snarled. Maxson snickered and picked up the toddler, making her squeal with delight as his beard tickled her face. Knight Tyler, do you mind if I try something unorthodox? Taylor raised her eyebrows and tilted her head. You're thinking about feeding the poor raider to my kid, aren't you? Maxson nodded soberly. I hate putting children out in the field, but we're out of options, and you said it yourself. Taylor sighed as she bit her lip and looked over at Mason, and then back to her daughter, then back to Mason before nodding. All right, but that door stays unlocked, and he gets shackled to the table with an armed guard in the room. Why? Lizzie said, tugging at Maxson's beard playfully. Thank you, Taylor. Of course, we can do that. Anything for our top Brotherhood of Steel Inquisitor. Maxson said, bouncing the tie as he talked before heading over to the door and knocking on it. Shackle him to the table, but sure as he's locked up tight. I have another guard coming in there soon, so make sure you do this quick, alright? Maxson said through the door. Yes, sir! The Brotherhood Power Armor Guard said as he took a step forward. Maxson, still holding Lizzie, walked down the hall to where 3 knights were standing, at a notice board reading the wanted posters. 1 of 3 happened to be in power armor. Excuse me, knight! Do you have a moment? Mason said, tapping on the shoulder of the power-armed soldier, who turned and tilted her head with confusion at the sight of the elder. Sure, Elder Maxson. Why, I ask, what do you want me to do? Why? Lizzie said, pointing to the suit glowing name tag. Maxson smiled and shifted Lizzie over to his arms before speaking. His voice grew sober. I have a very important interrogation. I need you to stand guard, for you must be ready to kill if the prep so much as sneezes on the Inquisitor. Got it? The knight stood straight and hooded sharply. Of course, sir. Lead the way. Why? Lizzie cooed as she reached out of the power armored knight's name tag, making grabbing motions with her hands. Excellent! Follow me! We're heading down to the interrogation. The knight noodles and moved Maxson back down to where Taylor and the PA wearing MP officer stood waiting. You go ahead, knight. I'll bring Lizzie in after you, Maxson said, looking down at the toddler in his arms. Wait, that's the Inquisitor? But she's a... I know, knight, but do you think the prep is shackled down and hens and yourself are going in there? The knight sighed and shook his head, unbelievably confused and bewildered at the scene in front of him. I'm not usually one to argue with the order, sir, but this is insanity! Maxson glared hard at the knight before looking Lizzie and then back at the knight. According to the famous pre-war genius scientist named Albert Einstein, insanity is repeating the same action over and over again and expecting different results. By trying something different, we are not insane. And trust me, knight, I know what I'm doing. The knight put his hands up. All right, I guess I'll go along with this. Good. Now make sure to be very vigilant. Maxson barked as he opened the door to the interrogation room, allowing the knight to go to the head of him. Oh, great. Another of you walking tin cans. This ought to be good. Mason hugged sarcastically as he watched the knight move into position behind the chair in front of Mason. Shut it, Mason! Taylor barked as she unexpectedly hustled into the room with a pre-war booster seat and sippy cup in her hand. Hey, sweetheart, you're back! Must have missed me! And you brought me a drink. Not my usual style cup, but I'll take it. Trap! Taylor snapped as she glared at the raider boss with a steel-melting fury in her eyes. Listen here, you scumrag. You make so much as a twitch or a sneeze in the direction of the next Inquisitioner, and I promise you, you will be splattered across the room like a rad gal getting sucked into the engine of this ship. Tyler sneered like a mama Yaukwai about to slam the cup down onto the table. Mason raised an eyebrow and swallowed hard but said nothing as he turned to the right to look at the first PA guard, while Taylor strapped the booster seat down to the chair, making sure it was secure. Bring her in, Elder, Taylor said, her voice softening as she stood up and walked to the door. Mommy loves you, baby. If you get scared, just holler, okay? I'll be right outside the door, okay? Taylor whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead before allowing the two to walk through the door and into the room. So, you must be the boss man, Mason said, snickering before his face twitched into a look of utter confusion at the sight of Lizzie. What the hell kind of joint are you running, kid? This is a twisted version of Bring Your Kid to Work Day. Enough, smart remarks, Mason. I'm tired of your lies and your disrespectful attitude towards my brothers and sisters. We will be vigilant and patient, but my patience is running thin. This is your last chance to confess before you have to move to more extreme measures. Mason stared blankly at the man before he stared and crackled with laughter. Are you serious about this shit? You are too funny, kid. I didn't murder that knight of yours, and I won't be talking anymore. Mason snapped and locked eyes into Maxson for a second before Maxson sighed and walked over to the chair that was in front of Mason and buckled Lizzie into the chair and slid her forward so she could have her sippy cup while she talked. Before leaving, Maxson bent down and patted Lizzie's head. You got this, Lizzie. May still be with you, Inquisitioner. Ad Victoriam. Lizzie cooed and patted the elder's beard, and with that Maxson got up and left. As soon as Maxson left the room, Lizzie turned to Mason, her big steel gray eyes piercing right through his hard fashion, making him squirm in the seat. I didn't kill that tin can. You bats jerks must be pretty desperate sending a baby in here, Mason said, rolling his eyes as he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Lizzie didn't say things, but still continued to stare at Mason, as if she could see right through him. Why? Lizzie said, pointing at Mason, and then took a sip from her juice and batted her eye at the overboss. Why what, kid? Why? Lizzie repressed the time pointing at his handcuffs. Mason sighed and rolled his eyes. These? Why? Because I supposedly killed one of you Brotherhood precious tin cans. But I didn't kill him. Why? Why would I kill him? I may not like the Brotherhood, but I sure as heck didn't kill the guy. Lizzie smacked her hands off the table repeatedly, shouting why as she did so. I already told you! I didn't have a reason to kill you Brotherhood bestshires! You guys are pushy Nazis! You kill people like they're sins, but I didn't kill him! Mason growled hesitantly, making Lizzie upset. Why? She snapped as she whipped her cup at the raider head over to roll back to her. Lizzie's sour attitude disappeared as she let out a happy shriek. Why? Mason shook his head and took a deep breath and looked at the guard behind Lizzie. I didn't freaking kill the knight this time. Just please, take this kid out of here. Mason pleaded as Lizzie smacked her cup off the table again, cheering loudly. Why? Why? Again, she threw her cup at Mason, and it hit her the change and made a delightful noise. Why? Lizzie snickered, pointing at the cups once again. Mason was near his last nerves. Why? Lizzie shouted as she picked up her cup and threw it at Mason. Mason growled as he clenched his fist at bare strength himself as Lizzie started to wail. Why? Lizzie shouted. She screamed as she jerked her little fingers at her sippy cup, which laid on the floor out of her reach. Instantly, one of the guards bent down and snatched it off the floor. Lizzie whimpered as the guards handed her the cup, only to be thrown at Mason once again. Why? That's it! Let me out of here, you techno-fascist Nazis! I can't deal with this little brat! I'm an overboss and I will be not tolerated! Why? Lizzie snarked, spitting juice at the raider, who started heavily shaking. I didn't kill that buckethead, okay? Mason slammed his fist on the table in frustration until one of the guards grabbed Mason by the head, which the other one distracted Lizzie by showing her his helmet light and laser pointer that was built into the finger of his gloves. Don't make me exterminate you in front of this baby. Just answer the questions, the guard whispered and jabbed his plasma pistol into Mason's back before standing up and returning to his post. Mason growled and caught Lizzie's attention, giving the guard a chance to return to his position as well. Why? Lizzie giggled as she threw her cup at the raider one last time before Mason finally snapped. Because your walking tin can scraps keep coming into my territory and threatening my pack! That buckethead crossed into our area and killed one of my pack mates, eye for an eye, blood for blood, but I didn't pull that trigger, damn it! Mason hugged and puffed as he threw his arms up as far as he could and collapsed onto the table, exhausted, but Lizzie yawned lazily and took a sip out of her cup and threw it at the door. Why? Mason sighed and shook his head. Please, kill me. I signed a confession. Just please, get me out of here. Instantly, the doors opened and Maxson came sweeping in and unbuckled Lizzie, who squealed and screeched with joy at the sight of the elder. Taylor came in and swiftly walked over to Mason and began to read him his rights. By order of the Brotherhood of Steel, you are under arrest for the involvement of the murder of Senior Knight Destrimus Zorkvik. You have the right to remain silent, but anything you have said or will say can and will be used against you during a trial. You can hire a lawyer or your choice after you're booked. Look, lady, I didn't give a rat's rump about whatever BS laws you Brotherhood brats may have. Just get me out of here. Why? Lizzie yawned as she took her cup off the table and stuck it lazily. Mason growled as he looked at Maxson with a look of hatred in his eyes. You are a sick, twisted, Nazi! Mason snapped at Taylor, leading the men out of the room and down the booking. Maxson sighed and dismissed the two guards before patting Lizzie on the head, giving her a small squeeze. You know, Lizzie, you're a fantastic inquisitor and a model soldier. Brave and fearless. You made us very proud. Lizzie shrieked and blushed as she buried her face into Mason's beard, before sitting back up and pointed at the door behind Maxson. Why? I heard one of our special inquisitors here for a particular confession out of the raider boss, Kells said as he strolled into the room and held up his hands in front of the tiny tot. Ad Victorum, Inquisitor! Lizzie shrieked as she smacked him before placing her hand over her heart. Why? Lizzie shrieked in mocking attempt to salute the captain before making Mason and Kells chuckle as they headed to the room and down the mess hall for more juice and some well-deserved ice cream.